with the 19th element.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay.
Okay, your screen's up now.
Okay.
The whole wide world to tell our God has come to give us heaven and take the devil into. Yeah. Black wings, strictly kings, in a line. So just the volume, turn up the sound. You can believe it, listening now. I'm Minister God, teacher and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on a nation of gods. The morning stars, all I saw. Alarm was mine and reclaiming power. Let that be the shout of the hour.
Assalamu alaikum. We are back again. 19th Element, California Radio. I am Amira Bay, Assistant Dr. Alim. World at war, world gone crazy, world gone broke.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Amira. You're back from Africa. You're back from Africa. You were with the delegation with Chief Malgana and the prayer and fasting delegation. So how does it feel to be back home?
It feels good, but it feels depressing at the same time. It's back in hell.
I
Number
understand.
7.
I understand. So we are, let me first of all apologize to the audience. We missed the broadcast last week due to unforeseen circumstances, you know, travel and the holiday and all the rest of it. And so we were unable to bring a broadcast to you, but we're glad to be here this week. And if I had been broadcasting last week, I would have wished you a wonderful Thanksgiving. Not necessarily the traditional American Thanksgiving, but I thank God for you. I thank God for Sister Amira. I thank God for the prayer and fasting family. I thank God for our listening audience, those who have been faithful followers and supporters of what we try to do, whether it's with the Your Immunity Project, whether it's with the 19th Element. You know, so I thank God for you, because where would I be without you? And where would we be without one another? And of course, Kwanzaa is coming up. That's also a harvest kind of a festival, just like Thanksgiving originally started out being. A harvest festival, when people bring in what they have produced during the season of growth and development. What have they cultivated? What have they produced? What have they manufactured? What have they made? And so Kwanzaa should be a time for us to quote Booker T. Washington, like I like to do, let's pull up our buckets and see what we have in it. What did we cultivate? What did we produce during the year 2025 that is now rapidly coming to a close? So this is the 19th Element. It's the second part of the Your Immunity Project. We can call both of them the survival shows. Now, the Your Immunity Project, of course, deals with health issues. We started out dealing exclusively with COVID-19 and the vaccine issues. And now we deal with other kinds of public health issues. And the 19th element that you're watching right now, we deal with geopolitical issues. But they're all about survival. Both shows are all about your and my survival. We have existential threats to our survival. It's not just something overseas in some faraway place, but it's right here at home at our doorstep. As Malcolm famously said, it's the chickens. It's the chickens. The chickens have come home to roost. So, Sister Amira, let's go to our images. We have quite a few. There's a lot going on in the world, a world that's going crazy, a world at war, a world going broke. And of course, I remind you that the reason why the world is so crazy and the leaders that are in the world that are actually the greatest threat to your and my survival. Can we survive the man that's in the White House? Can we survive the lunatics in Europe? See, that's the big threat nowadays because they are stark, stone, raving mad. The Quran says, how can those stand on the day of resurrection who have consumed riba, except those who have been driven into insanity by Satan? And so we know Europe and America, down through the centuries of their colonial past, their slavery past. Riba is not just interest on money. Riba is any kind of injustice, unfairness. So what is slavery? What is colonialism? What is neocolonialism, imperialism? Except riba. And the Quran cannot be contradicted. Those who have practiced riba, who have consumed riba, who have waxed rich at the expense of others, those who have oppressed others, enslaved others, how can they stand on this day of resurrection except as those driven into insanity by Satan? And that certainly is what we are seeing. Now, as we approach the end of the year, it looks like it's going to go out with a big bang. Earthquakes, volcanoes going off. There's something called the Circle of Fire. It's the rim of the Pacific Ocean. My theory is that's where the moon blasted off 66 trillion years ago. And it left a wound, a jagged wound in the crust of the earth in the Pacific Basin. And so the majority of the earthquakes, the majority of the volcanoes on planet Earth are in that rim of fire, and it's been activated, even in Hawaii. It's not the only place, of course. There's a volcano going off in Ethiopia, a volcano going off in Italy, volcanoes going off under the ice in Antarctica, under the ice in the Arctic. Huge earthquakes taking place in diverse places, like the Bible said. Huge earthquakes off the coast of Japan, off the coast of Russia, off the coast of Alaska. Rumbles in the Bay Area on the west coast of America. Earthquakes in Iran. Earthquakes taking place at unusual places. And now this is a prediction from Stefan Burns. Stefan Burns has a wonderful station or channel on YouTube where he monitors space weather, things that are taking place in the solar system that affect planet Earth. And so he's pointing out this huge, huge, huge sunspot. You see that sunspot there? Coronal hole. There's one that's pointing directly at Earth. And it's been firing. See, the sun rotates just like the Earth. The sun rotates every 25 days, so I'm told. And so this sunspot was on the backside of the sun last week or the week before. And now it's rotated to the Earth-facing side of the sun. And while it was on the backside of the sun, it was emitting X-class solar flares that if they had hit the Earth, it would have caused major catastrophe and disruption. Even it would have been on the order of the Carrington event in 1859 that would have fried the entire power grid. Next image, please. So this sunspot, if it fires, see, this is a solar flare. See, it looks like a laser beam, doesn't it? Now you have to keep in mind how big the sun is compared to the earth. If you look at the width of that solar flare, you could probably fit 50 Earths inside just that solar flare. That's how big that thing is. And it's shooting out of the sun, you know, towards the top, like a laser beam. And if it hit a planet or anything, it would instantly fry it. Next image, please. So now this is the latest image of the sunspot that is now facing the Earth. So if you actually had a telescope with the proper filter on it, and you took a look at the sun today, this is what you would have seen. It's like looking down the barrel of a shotgun. And if the sun lets loose one of those solar flares, like that laser beam that we just saw, that it did last week, that was from last week. Now this one is pointed directly at the Earth. So Stefan Burns and other astrophysicists, they're saying that if the sun lets loose from this huge, huge solar sunspot, then this would be enough to disrupt all communication on planet Earth. It would fry the electrical grid. All of the transformers would explode. All of the power plants would catch on fire. Maybe even some of your electrical devices, you know, that are connected to the energy grid, they might even catch on fire, because it would be so much energy coming from the sun at once, perhaps millions more than normal, hitting the Earth's ionosphere all at once. And we just fry everything that is electrical or electronic. Not only that, but the energy that would be hitting the Earth would be so tremendous. See, it's not just light, it's not just heat, it's particles. This is a coronal mass ejection. See, the solar flare would hit the Earth in 500 seconds.
Recording stopped.
But then days later, then the coronal mass ejection would follow the solar flare, and that would hit the Earth, and that's actually material. Those are particles. And the weight of those particles would be measured in the millions and millions of tons of plasma from the sun, distorting the magnetosphere of the Earth. And that would distort the crust of the Earth. And that's why the scientists are predicting massive earthquakes in the next few days, until this sunspot, you know, as it rotates out of range, then the threat would dissipate. But even smaller sunspots than this can do the same thing. So be aware of the threat that's not man-made. It's coming from the solar system. Next image, please. And that's why you can't have total reliance on electronics, because all it would take would be one X-class solar flare, and that's it for electronics. Now, everyone is aware by now that since Mr. Trump took office, he's instigated through ICE, the immigration controls, what does that stand for? Immigration Control Agency. Well, they call it ICE. And it's like a domestic army. They're going around rounding up all of the allegedly illegal aliens that they can find in major cities. He's enlisted the help of the National Guard in Los Angeles, in Chicago, and other metropolitan areas. The National Guard is patrolling the streets in Washington, D.C., the capital of America. In fact, a National Guardsman was shot and killed over the weekend in Washington, D.C., right outside the White House. There's rising levels of violence all over the country. There are some people saying that America is on the brink of civil war. The Democrats hate the Republicans hate the Democrats, and none of them seem to love the American people or the Constitution. So there is no law that they are not willing to break. There is no constitutional amendment that they are not willing to abridge. There is no crime that they are unwilling to commit. Now, because of that, there's unrest at the grassroots, street level, among the population. People are dissatisfied because they see the political situation disintegrating. They see the society itself disintegrating, the family disintegrating, the educational system disintegrating, the economy disintegrating, the food system disintegrating. Everything seems to be going down the drain. And because of that, people are upset. And violence is on the rise. People being pushed into subway cars and all kinds of crazy things. People setting other people on fire, slashing their throats. Riots taking place in various cities around the country. Looting, where mobs of people just bum rush stores and just strip the shelves bare, producing massive bankruptcies of some of the major retail chains and fast food chains. So as the situation in the United States deteriorates, as it is deteriorating in Europe, then the expectation is for civil disorder to increase, even to the point of civil war. So not so long ago, Mr. Trump convened a meeting at Quantico, Virginia, of all of the top military leaders to inform them that the military was going to be used in the future to handle disorders in metropolitan areas across the United States. And as a result of that unlawful policy and order, several of the top military commanders expressed their disagreement and have handed in their resignation. Now, because of the increasing violence in the American society, then control of violence has to be enforced. And so the point of this image is to say that the ICE agents that are rounding up allegedly illegal immigrants or migrants that were welcomed across the border under the Biden administration, now they're being rounded up with no hearings, no due process, thrown into vans by hooded and masked agents of ICE. And now it turns out that some of these ICE agents actually aren't American ICE agents. They're actually IDF soldiers. They're from the Israeli Defense Force. Some of the people who are acting as ICE agents are actually Israeli Defense Force soldiers. And it turns out that this has been going on through a program of exchange for more than 20 years. Where under the influence of the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, police forces across the country have sent their police officers and trainees to be trained in the handling of violence in Israel. And so part of the reason for the increase in police violence against civilians is because the police were trained in Israel, in Gaza, on how to handle civilian violence in a very militant, very violent kind of a way. So it means that the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, is actually patrolling the streets of America, arresting American citizens, allegedly illegal aliens. Next image, please. Now, this is a whistleblower who knows about what the program is really like and how the training program is really run, and essentially is racist. The police are trained in how to uphold and protect and defend white supremacy, apartheid, racial profiling, all of the things that you and I complain about connected to police brutality in our communities. It was all trained into the police. Not that some of them needed much training, but they got polished off in Israel. Next image, please. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us about this in 1959. If you go on YouTube, you can find a speech that he gave in 1959 in Newark, New Jersey, where he said that the Ku Klux Klan was going to put on police uniforms and perform the same function as the Klan. So go listen to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in 1959. And of course, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith is connected to the Ku Klux Klan. B'nai B'rith was the originator of the Ku Klux Klan. See, the Anti-Defamation League was started along with the FBI, the Federal Reserve Bank system, and the IRS in 1913, 1914. That's true. But it's the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith. So who's B'nai B'rith? Well, that's the secret Freemasonic order among the Jews, headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina. Had a lot to do with fomenting the Civil War, in American history. And then after the Civil War was lost by the slave owners, then they instituted a terrorist campaign against the newly freed slaves by organizing something that became known as the Ku Klux Klan. And so just as you have the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, 150 years ago, you had the Ku Klux Klan of B'nai B'rith. Now here's another trouble spot in Europe. They're threatening war against Russia. Western Europe has been threatening war against Russia for hundreds of years. I mean, go back to the time of Napoleon. In the early 19th century, attacking Russia, trying to take over Russia, and got his butt kicked. Went into Russia with something like 600, 700,000 troops, and got run out of Russia with only about 40,000 left out of 600,000, 700,000. Then who tried it again? Well, the Bolsheviks, they overthrew Russia 100 years ago. As a matter of fact, the game plan of the Bolsheviks 100 years ago is the game plan of the Bolsheviks in 2025 in America. The same people that overthrew the Tsar in Russia 100 years ago, they're the same people that overthrew the White House, overthrew Congress, overthrew the American political system, overthrew the Constitution. Same people did that 100 years ago to Russia. But the Russians recovered because they are Orthodox Christians. And even though they were forced under atheistic communism for 70 years, their faith endured. And so as the Quran promises that those followers of Jesus, those who wept at the crucifixion of Jesus, they would be the powerhouse in the world until the end of this world. And so you see Russia as the powerhouse nation in the world today, the military power, the economic power, even the diplomatic power. And more importantly than all of that, Russia is taking the lead as the moral power in the world, standing up for what is right. They say, and this is the former defense chief of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, they understand very clearly that when they are fighting in Ukraine, they are fighting against the Antichrist. That's how they identify Western Europe as being satanic, the satanic forces of the Antichrist. They are not true Christians in Western Europe and America. The Christian Zionists in America are not true Christians. The true Christians in the world are the Russians, the Orthodox Christians. And they have maintained their faith all these centuries, and they're being rewarded with success, even though they are being punished by their enemies. But the more their enemies try to mete out punishment through sanctions and even outright warfare in Ukraine, the more the Russians prosper, along with their allies. So basically, it's at the end of the line in Ukraine, if you've been paying attention. Russia has just about achieved all of their military objectives in Ukraine, and the United States and NATO can't do anything about it. They've supplied Ukraine with all the weapons that they have, and they are not a match for the Russian weapons that are used in their special military operation. Now, this message from I don't think he's actually a military officer. He was the military defense chief in Russia. But basically, he's saying, in answer to the threats that are coming from England and Germany, that they're going to preemptively strike Russia. They're going to send ballistic missiles into Russia since they're losing in Ukraine, because they can't stand the thought of losing. Because if they lose in Ukraine, that's the end of NATO. That's the end of the European Union. And that's the end of many of the governments that are in power now over European countries. And so Mr. Shoigu answered the threat that Russia's ready. You can start a war if you want to, but at the end of the war, there won't be anybody left in Europe to negotiate with. Next image, please. You will all be dead. Here's another trouble spot, Venezuela. That's Nicolas Maduro. He's the successor of Hugo Chavez. They represent the Bolivarian Revolution. Simon Bolivar was like the George Washington of South America. And the South American Revolution was never completed. So those countries down there, they never achieved complete freedom and independence. They were interfered with actually by the Yankees to the north through the Monroe Doctrine. And so all these many years later, the Caribbean island nations, the Latin American nations in Central America, South America, they're still struggling, trying to find full independence and freedom from the Monroe Doctrine that puts them under the heel of oppression of the Yankees to the north. So now they tried to overthrow Maduro under Trump's first term and failed miserably. Miserable failure. Now here he comes, he's going to try to do it again, threatening to murder this man. Why? Because Nicolas Maduro says that the oil in Venezuela belongs to Venezuela. And it does not belong to America. And he's not going to hand it over. Remember under Trump's first term, they said that Maduro was an illegitimate leader. Now they're saying he's a narco-terrorist. In Trump's first term, they tried to put some fake guy in, Juan Guaido, say he's the president. Now they have some lady that they gave the Nobel Peace Prize to. Now they're trying to say she's the president. They're trying to appoint a puppet president in Venezuela so they can go in and steal the gold, steal the oil. Understand, Venezuela has the largest oil reserves of any country in the world. So whoever controls the oil in Venezuela basically controls the oil market. And Trump is trying to steal the oil so he can control the oil market and put pressure on Iran and Saudi Arabia and all the rest of the oil producers, especially Russia. See, back in the old days, when America put sanctions on a country like Venezuela, and they stole all of Venezuela's gold, they had $24 billion of gold in the Bank of England, and they stole it. Just like they're trying to steal the Russian assets. These are thieves. These are murderers. So in the old days, when you put sanctions on a country like that, the government would have failed. But Maduro has allies in Russia, in China, in Iran. So when America refused to sell Iran, pardon me, Venezuela replacement parts to keep the refineries going, hey, all that equipment was supplied by the Russian refineries. When America put sanctions and told nobody is allowed to buy Venezuelan oil anymore, then China stepped in and said, we'll buy it. We don't care what America says. We'll buy oil from anybody, and we're looking for a discount. And so Venezuela generously gave a discount to China, so China would remain as a customer, as a happy customer. And as a result of that, China has invested trillions of dollars in Venezuelan oil infrastructure. So you see what that means? If America attacks Venezuela, what, you're going to destroy $1 trillion of Chinese infrastructure? Wait a minute, I don't think so. Look what Russia has supplied to Venezuela. This goes back years, where they got warships off the coast of Venezuela. Trump talking about we got 11 warships and an aircraft carrier in the Caribbean to attack Venezuela. But Russia said we got warships off the coast of Venezuela too. We got submarines down there too. We've given air defense to Venezuela like we're using in Ukraine that you cannot penetrate. So attack if you want to. But we're putting an end to the so-called Monroe Doctrine, where you act like all of the Western Hemisphere is America's backyard and you can do anything you want to do and overthrow governments left and right and steal whatever you want to steal. No more. No more. So what happens if Trump actually goes to war against Venezuela? Besides suffering an ignominious defeat? Well, it would already blow up the oil market. So you end up paying $10 a gallon gasoline. That's what would happen. Next image, please. And they'll run him out of office if that happens. So America on high alert. Trump declares war. Now, do you see how unconstitutional that is? See, under the American Constitution, only Congress has the authority to declare war. Now you have a dictator, literally a dictator, who has taken constitutional authority to himself and says he has the authority to declare war. He has the authority to murder people. All he has to do is label them as a narco-terrorist. And then he can shoot hellfire missiles at them and blow them out of the water in these little speedboats. And mostly all he's killing are fishermen and people trying to make an honest living. And they're transporting things back and forth from Venezuela to Trinidad. They do that all the time. It's not drugs. Besides, if you arrested somebody for selling drugs in America, or you caught somebody selling drugs in America, and you can do that quite easily in every American city. There's somebody selling drugs right now. Do you have the right to shoot them just because they're selling drugs? Or you suspect that that's what they're doing with no evidence? No, you might arrest them. They might have a court hearing. They might be found guilty or innocent. That's called due process. But here's a man that doesn't mind murdering people in cold blood just because he labels them as a narco-terrorist. Well, don't forget, he labels some of you as domestic terrorists. If you supported Palestine, if you were against the genocide in Gaza, he labeled you as a domestic terrorist and deported you out of the country. Next image, please. So suppose Trump declares war on you. That's what he told the generals to get ready for, to be deployed into American cities. Now, what they're doing down there when they're blowing these boats out of the water, that's cold-blooded murder. It's a violation of international law. It's a violation of the laws of war. There actually are laws of war. You're not allowed to do that. So basically, according to Judge Napolitano, the Secretary of War, as he likes to call himself, is a war criminal, without a doubt. And he should face justice. He should be in front of the Hague, facing justice. Donald Trump is, without a doubt, a war criminal in the White House. Cold-blooded murderer. Violation of international law. According to Judge Napolitano, it's a slam dunk case. Here they're killing people with no evidence, no justification whatsoever, in a blatant effort just to steal what they have. Next image, please. So now how are you and I going to survive war criminals in power? Now here's a military veteran, Daniel Davis, former lieutenant colonel. And he's asking a simple question. Is Secretary of War Hegseth guilty of murder under military law? And of course, the answer to that is yes, guilty as hell. Next image, please. He's trying to run for cover saying he acted under the fog of war. Well, whoever declared war? There's no war. You just committed murder. So now I already mentioned the fact that Nicolas Maduro and Venezuela are in strong strategic alliances with both China and Russia. Russia has warships to guard the coast of Venezuela against invasion. They have nuclear bombers on the ground in Venezuela. And the Chinese have provided air defense systems. Trump says he's going to declare a no-fly zone over Venezuela. Not if China has something to say about it, and they do. Not only that, Iran has also deployed forces to the Caribbean. Yes, Iran defending Venezuela. Because, see, Venezuela is a member of OPEC, the oil-producing countries. And so an attack against one of the oil-producing countries and the theft of their natural resources, that's an attack against all of the OPEC countries. And that's why Trump is threatening Nigeria as well, another OPEC country, trying to steal their oil if he fails in Venezuela. Next image, please. He wants to steal the Venezuelan oil to provide cheap oil to Israel and also sell it to Europe, since he blew up the pipeline, or I guess Biden blew up the pipeline. Now, this is Sheikh Umran Hussein, a very astute scholar, and his specialty is Islamic eschatology. In other words, a study of the end times from the point of view of the Quran. Both the Bible and the Quran tell us that we're in the end times. And so Imran Hussein has a very, very deep insight into those events. And so it's shaping up to be the Malhama. The Malhama is the Islamic version of Armageddon. When people talk about the war of Armageddon, the Muslims would say the Malhama, just as the Christians and Jews would say the Antichrist, the Muslims would say Dajjal. So the Malhama begins with an alliance between Turkey, Iran, in that part of the world, along with Russia and China, Afghanistan, Yemen, and the so-called Islamic resistance that includes Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and many, many, many more. And so these are not nation states alone that are rising up, but these are groups of people, groups of believers who are rallying to the cause because they know that the time is ripe for the appearance of the Mahdi. And it is said that the Mahdi will make his appearance along with the reappearance of Imam Isa, Jesus. The second coming of Jesus takes place in Damascus, Syria. And so that's why the warfare is taking place over Syria and Damascus, because that's where the Imam Mahdi and Imam Isa are to make their appearance at the end of this world order. And the enemy is desperate to interfere. And instead of allowing the real Mahdi to appear, present to the world their false Messiah, the Antichrist, Dajjal. Next image, please. And of course, according to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, the greatest fitna, the greatest trial of the believers is Dajjal, the Antichrist. Now, isn't this ironic? Trump claims that Nicolas Maduro is a narco-terrorist deserving of cold-blooded murder and the overthrow of his government and the theft of all of his oil. And yet, the biggest drug lord ever captured by the DEA, I think he was in prison for life, just got pardoned by Trump. You see, so you can't just make this stuff up. Now, would this qualify as a Trumpism? I think so. This would qualify as a Trumpism. Look up the word Trump and Trumpism in a good dictionary, not a new dictionary, an old dictionary, and you'll see that this man is living up to his name. Next image, please. This is a pure Trumpism. Now, I included this image because this is how I start my day, with a listen to the Quran. After prayer in the morning, you know, then I spend a period of quiet listening to the Quran being recited in Arabic, because it's the vibration of the Quran that is its power to heal, its power to inspire. And you say, well, you don't understand Arabic. I don't have to understand it. I can feel it. You know, I can feel it. And so that's a good way to start the day, to infuse the environment where you are with the vibration of divine. Next image, please. It'll make your day go better. So now all of these desperate moves that you see taking place by Mr. Trump, the European leaders, the crazy lunatics running Israel, the crazy people down in Argentina, you see all of them doing crazy things that seem to be suicidal, self-destructive, against their own interests. Well, that's the definition of insanity. I remind you, the Quran says, how can those who have consumed riba stand on the day of resurrection except as those driven into insanity by Satan? So that's what you're witnessing. But now there's a real life from a real world problem that Mr. Trump is faced with that is driving him insane. See, because the economy of the United States is based on basically two things: debt that was created with the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, and war. So debt and war are the pillars of the American economy. Without debt and without war, America's economy crashes. Well, now, debt means that America has to sell bonds because she's overspending constantly. That's why there's a $38 trillion federal debt, is because they can't balance the budget. Remember, these are criminals. How could you expect criminals to balance the budget? You would have to be honest to balance the budget. Well, whoever would confuse these people with somebody that's honest and accountable. No, these have been criminals from the very beginning. So essentially, they run an economy like a Ponzi scheme. So that's why the currency is going to collapse, because how much debt can you actually accumulate? It's just like you and me. Hey, they'll give you a credit card but there's a credit limit on it. And after that, when you reach the limit, hey, that's the limit. That's all you get. When it looks like the rest of the world, namely Russia, China, Brazil, South Africa, India, Korea, Japan, even European allies, they say, you know what? America has so much debt, over $38 trillion, that they admit to. And there's more that they don't admit to. You know what? We have lent America all that money, and now I think America has reached a point, I don't think they can pay us back. So that's Trump's dilemma. To pay back what is already owed, what is currently due, right now, at the end of the year. He got a $3 trillion nut to crack right now. That's what he's going to bed with tonight. How am I going to come up with $3 trillion by tomorrow? That's why he was in Korea last week, begging for money. That's why I was in Japan begging for money. Went to Singapore, went to India, begging for money, begging for money. Went to Europe, begging for money. Now, all of them promised they're going to give him some money, but all they gave him was a tinsel crown to put on his head. So he's coming back broke. So again, that's what brings Venezuela into focus, because not only do they have the largest oil reserves in the world, but they have some of the largest gold reserves in the world. And so to prevent a default, see, the only thing that America can do, it can't pay its debt, so that would be a default. If America defaults on the debt that is owed to all these other countries, that would instantly crash the world's economy. What's the other option? Print more money. Just fire up the printing presses and print more dollars. So if Trump needs $3 trillion right away by the end of the year, what would it mean to you if the Federal Reserve Bank prints up $3 trillion overnight and puts them into circulation? $3 trillion more dollars in circulation. That would cause hyperinflation. That would give you $20 a gallon gas. That would give you $15 a dozen eggs. That would make the rents and the mortgages and the mortgage rates through the roof, which would be economic collapse in America. So you see, Trump is caught between a rock and a hard place. He's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. And so all he can really do from now on is just a song and dance, making it seem like he still got some juice, when in fact, the game is over. Next image, please. The game is over. Now, we showed this last night on the Your Immunity Project. The chemtrails that are poisoning Americans, making them sick, even vaccinating them against their will, or still instilling them with nanoelectronics, is being partly funded not just by the Pentagon and DARPA, but also by Israel, supposedly an American ally. Next image, please. So the evil that's being done to the Palestinians is also being done to you and I. Now, this is to remind you of the ongoing project that I have to develop a virtual hospital. Now, it's really just a website, but it's going to offer a lot of options for healthcare. Now, that's important because Mr. Trump said that he's going to abolish Obamacare. Obamacare is a thing of the past, and they're going to have drastic cuts in Medicare and Medicaid that many people rely on. So tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of Americans come July the 1st, along with the currency reset. See how they're going to save money. They're going to save money by cutting out insurance, cutting Social Security benefits, cutting food stamps. The policy from now on is austerity. You're not going to get what you're used to getting. Things are going to get tight. You're going to have to tighten your belt. He's attacking the insurance companies. And so basically the insurance companies that offer health care to people, it's going to be unaffordable. It's unaffordable for most people right now, but it's really going to be unaffordable in a couple of more days, come January the 1st, when the big reset takes place. So that's why I'm offering through the website, dralim.com, that's under construction right now, a 9-step health plan. So we talked about it last week on the Your Immunity Project in detail. And so that's uploaded on my YouTube channel. So check that out to get the details of how an alternative healthcare plan called Abundant Life could actually benefit you in a big, big way, as it introduces a new paradigm in healing, because we're not trying to duplicate the old failed system that's let everybody down, that nobody trusts anymore. No, we're bringing in a whole new paradigm of healing that is based on the principles of how to eat to live. Because the claim now in How to Eat to Live is that fasting with the right food is the cure for all of your ills. So now, who has proven that claim to be true? Well, over 50 years of my practice, that's exactly what I've attempted to do. And so there's almost no illness or disease that cannot be moved by proper nutrition and proper fasting. So check us out, and you can help us. We're in the first phase of the project. That's almost complete. But phase two has to generate $25,000 more dollars. We've raised $7,000 for the first phase. We need $25,000 more. So you can help us. Just go to GoFundMe/Your Immunity Project and make your contribution there. And so I thank you very much in advance for what you're going to do to help us to help you better. Next image, please. So that's the logo for the Your Immunity Project. And with the information that you now have about what's going on the sun, how confident are you in your digital devices that they're going to be safe and secure? Think about your digital bank account. Think about all of the information that you rely on that's on a digital device. You better write it down, the things that really count, and you better convert your digital bank account into gold and silver, tangible assets that you can hold in your hand that cannot be deleted at the touch of a button. Next image, please. I showed last night some sprouts that I grew in my kitchen, and they were delicious when you added it to the salad. They were broccoli sprouts. I'm also growing some bean sprouts, and you can do the same thing in your kitchen, full of protein. Okay, so this is what we touched on before, that the ICE and the Israeli military are working together. Two sides of the same coin. The same brutality that is being meted out to the Palestinian civilians in Gaza and the West Bank, hey, that's exactly what's coming here. They're going to treat you the same way. They're going to set up what they call 15-minute cities. We've reported on that on the Your Immunity Project. Go look at the CDC's website. They call them 15-minute cities. And they're going to be enforced on people in America by ICE agents and Israeli defense forces, just like Gaza, an open-air concentration camp, it has been oppressed and enforced all these years. So what you see overseas is coming here, unless you do something about it. Now, if you will not stop what the IDF is doing in Gaza and the West Bank, and keep in mind, some of the people who are doing those horrible things in Gaza and the West Bank, they are police trainees from America. They're from America. Some of those people doing that are from America. Remember, most of the Israeli citizens are dual citizens. They're American citizens committing those atrocities against the Palestinians in Palestine. So if they're dual citizens and they're police officers or IDF officers committing atrocities in Palestine, well, since they're dual citizens, they can be American officers and military officers committing atrocities in American cities, just like Donald Trump said that he wanted the military to do. What's the difference between the IDF and the U.S. military? Next image, please. It's all under Zionist control, which is an agenda of conquest. So again, you see the same thing. The merging of the Israeli Defense Forces with the U.S. military and the police forces in America, coming under one single command. Not putting America first, but putting the Zionist agenda first, which is an agenda of conquest. How different is Mr. Trump from Mr. Netanyahu? Mr. Netanyahu says we want to conquer Lebanon, we want to conquer parts of Egypt, we want to conquer all of Jordan, we want to conquer all of Iraq, we want to conquer all of Iran, we want to conquer parts of Saudi Arabia, and we want to call that Greater Israel. Well, what does Mr. Trump want to do? Well, we want to conquer Greenland. We want to take the western provinces of Canada. We want to send military forces into Mexico. We're going to invade Venezuela and take it over. And we might do the same thing to Colombia right next door. It's a policy of conquest, of pillage, of piracy, of murder, of death, of genocide. How is Mr. Trump any different than Mr. Netanyahu? They're following the same agenda. Next image, please. And so they have to bring the forces that they're using under a single command. So now we touched on this last night. See, the digital tools being used in Gaza to commit genocide are being supplied to the Israelis by the Americans. See, companies like Palantir, Oracle, Elon Musk, Starlink, they are supplying the information that the Israelis are using to target people for murder and genocide. All of the targeting data is being supplied by these big tech companies situated in Silicon Valley that Donald Trump bestowed $500 billion on as soon as he took office. And so you see there is a technological network, a surveillance network, a communications network, a digital network of surveillance, of murder, of creating what they call kill chains. And it's not just limited to Gaza or the West Bank. Now you see it's coming into play in places like London and England and Paris and all over Europe, in the European Union. It's coming into place in America, where you live. And it's all being controlled from Israel. Next image, please. So here's something that should catch your attention if nothing else did. The massive money reset. In other words, if they have no alternative but to inflate the money to come up with the $3 trillion by the end of the year, then that's going to create hyperinflation. Which means in order to buy a loaf of bread, you're going to have $20. You have to carry around a whole lot of money. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to digitize the economy. They're going to outlaw cash. Cash is going to be outlawed. Cash will be considered evidence that you are a domestic terrorist. If you try to buy something with cash, you must be a domestic drug terrorist. And ICE is going to come and pick you up, or the IDF is going to come and pick you up and take you to an unknown destination. So either way, the inflation of the current money system, or what they're calling the Fed coin. 100 years ago, they came in with this paper dollar called the Federal Reserve note. Now, 100 years later, now they're coming up with something called the Fed coin, which is a digital cryptocurrency. So you won't even have paper. You have a digit on an electronic screen, and that's your wealth. And you don't control it. They will control it through their surveillance system. Their surveillance system will calculate how much you can spend of what you claim to be yours, or what they allow you to claim to be yours. This is also tied in with a guaranteed annual income, where they're going to pay people to do nothing. Because with artificial intelligence, most of the jobs are going to disappear and be handled by artificial intelligence and robots. So what do they need you for? So they're going to give you a guaranteed income to sit at home and play digital games until the other things that they have done to you have their full effect. And you just fade on off the scene. But in the meantime, there has to be a money reset. So if you don't want them to steal the money that's in your bank account right now, in your savings account, in your pension accounts, your stocks and bonds, if you don't want them to steal what's in your checking account and all of your dollar-denominated assets, then you need to make a move right now, because come January the 1st, hey, all that's going to disappear. And then they're going to declare a bank holiday, and you won't know what's going on for several days. And then when the banks reopen and you can access your digital bank account, they're going to tell you about the new money that they put in your account. And they're going to say that this is the equivalent of what you had before, but the money just looks different. It's just a different kind of money. It's crypto money. And it's tied to your social credit score. Did you put up some naughty posts on social media? Did you put up some pro-Palestinians posts on social media? Because that might have an impact on how much food you can buy. That might have an impact on whether you can even leave the location that you're in, whether you even be free to travel. They might not even allow you to buy an airline ticket. They're also changing the passports. You might be a prisoner in America. That's what they did in Israel. When things got hot in Israel, when Iran was bombarding them, Bibi Netanyahu and them made it against the law for anybody in Israel to try to leave the country. They couldn't leave the country. Those Israelis want to get out of there. They know they're in the hot seat, getting ready to be wiped out in the next round with Iran. So they closed the borders. Well, that's what Trump is getting ready to do, changing the passport rules as to who can leave and who has to stay. Next image, please. That might be the last one. Well, I can't read it anyhow, so next. So this is the 19th element. We talk about geopolitical issues, and we're all over the place. And this is the big issue that is on my mind, as you can see. The military-style training of U.S. police by Israel comes under criticism. Next image, please. So how does that sit with you? And does that explain the problems that you have with your local police? Now, this is just to remind you that Israel is financing the chemtrails. Now, of course, America gives Israel the money, and then Israel, see, they set up the bioweapons laboratories in places like Ukraine and Israel. That's where the remdesivir came from that they were given to the COVID-19 patients. It came from a company in Israel called Gilead Pharmaceuticals. And they put together the remdesivir that they gave to Americans under the so-called Anthony Fauci COVID-19 protocol. And so it's not surprising that in some of the chemtrails you find the COVID-19 vaccine, that you find the COVID-19 agent, that you find the spike protein, that you find nanoelectronics, radioactive elements, cancer-causing chemicals. And of course, the same thing is in the breath of people who got the vaccine shot. So the overarching theme, as we like to point out on the Your Immunity Project, is, hey, we're in the midst of a depopulation agenda. And that means war, death, and violence on every level. And so the question and the challenge for you and me, all of us together, how are we going to survive this? How are we going to survive? Next image, please. By being aware, by being nimble, on our toes, by having a plan through prayer and fasting. So now this is what I was talking about. See, this has been my lifelong dream. I went to medical school to be a doctor at Muhammad's hospital. But unfortunately, something went wrong and we never got the hospital. And I've had to spend my entire career outside doing something else other than doing what I wanted to do. And so right now, I'm in a last ditch effort. Before it's all over for me, I want to be able to say, even if it's just virtual, I want to be able to say that we finally accomplished something that deserves the name to be called a hospital for Muhammad. And plus, my name is Muhammad, so even if it's just for me, it's still a hospital for Muhammad. But it can be for you, because where else are you going to go and get health care that you can trust, that you can rely on, that's safe and effective, that's nutrition-based? I don't think there is any other place that you can go. So you're either going to hold on to what you have and what's being taken away from you and suffer and die, or else you're going to accept the new paradigm in medicine that is based on how to eat the living. So I'm asking for your support to help us build the website. Phase 1 almost done. Phase 2 on the way, needs $25,000. Go to GoFundMe and help me. And if you help me, then I am better able to help you. In the description there, written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, He says we need a 200 or 300 bed hospital. Well, with a website, I can take care of more than 200, 300 people at a time. I can take care of thousands at a time. See, that's what the lessons say. The lion in the cage with modern equipment. Hey, he can do 50 times more with modern equipment than he could do before. And so what's 50 times 200? What's 50 times 300? That's what we could, that's the potential of the website when it's fully functional. So help me so I can help you. GoFundMe/Your Immunity Project. Next image, please. So I'm pushing hard. I'm trying to get this first phase done by the end of the year, because come January the 1st, there's a whole lot of negative things that's getting ready to jump off. So do what you can do to help if you are so moved to do that. So that concludes our headlines and our commentary on the headlines. And I hope it alerted you to the danger that you and I and the entire world are in, because we're right now, hopefully just temporarily, under the rulership of lunatics. And so the question is, can we survive the lunacy of the lunatics that have been driven insane by Satan due to their past injustices that they have perpetrated on the world, the crimes that they have committed against the world. Now they're being punished. And the issue is, can we survive their punishment so that we can receive our reward on the other side of this time of trouble? So that's it for this evening. I'm your host, Dr. Alim. This is the 19th Element, assisted once again after almost a month away in Africa by Sister Amira Bey. So thank you for being with us. We try to do this once a week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays, and of course the Your Immunity Project on Tuesdays at the same time. So thank you for being with us. May Allah bless and keep us. Assalamu alaikum.
Nine ministries and ministry heads, administer the medicine and wake up the dead. So let us attempt the uphill road. The book say what will make thee know it's the freest slave. Body and mind, to view my brother's hunger is mine. To take care of widows and father the shout. To humbly pray and not be proud. This is being proud of being called by his name. We pray for his coming, glad he can. Call for the messenger, call to the same. Called by the minister who called again. Tonight he the call to live in sin. And feel the fire to lick you in. But your agreement with hell won't stand. Do you even know what Elijah was saying? Just the volume, turn up the sound. You can believe it, listening now. I'm minister, God, teacher, and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on the nation of gods. The moon, the stars, all that stars. Align with his mind and reclaiming power. Let that be the shop of the hour. Education and agriculture, science, technology, arts, and culture. Health, human services, justice, defense, information, spiritual development, trade and commerce. And of course, there's all types of different task forces coming together the right kind of way to execute a perfect overtime play. A coach, a team, and a kingdom to be. Two backing them up, we got three. I got daily in Christ, he said. Well, James can't get that out of his head. So seeking assistance, patience, and prayer. A double overtime type. So just the volume, turn up the sound. You can believe it, listening now. I'm minister, God, teacher, and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on the nation of gods. The moon, the stars, all that stars. Align with his mind and reclaiming power. Let that be the shot of the hour. Is he coming back to build this brother? When he said, set yourself in heaven, said Matthew's Islam mystery wasn't said, I'll make perfect rulers of them. Now that sound like straight words to me. So I'm trying to be on some let's get free. And y'all thought this was just a magic thing, but here's the reason Mike got 6 rings. Mike got rings, Mike got power, clutch performer, shock of the hour. It is what it is, young Mike can't lie. We play to win, they play to try, so we stay focused, build the nation. Negroes, devils, spectating the beat. So I pray my plan, work my prayer, cause I'm a double overtime type of player. Now adjust the volume one last time. Rewind it back to check the rhyme. I'm minister, God, teacher, and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on the nation of God. The moon, the stars, all that stars. Align with his mind and reclaim the power. Let that be the shot of the hour.